I think too we got to mention prayer. We got to mention Lord of the Rings at least once in our podcast. So I'll do it for us. I'll just squeeze it in. No, Lord of the Rings is actually a really powerful kind of source of hope for me over the quarantine. It's the first time I've read it. Um, One of the things, actually, hope is very prevalent for Tolkien in the books.
Yeah.
He talks about it. The characters talk about it often.
Mhm.
One of the things that despite the seeming lack of hope in their situation, Frodo and Sam continue along the journey. There's this
Yeah.
really this real way that they're going along, this real journey that they're moving along, and they have a sense that there doesn't seem to really any hope, but we got to keep taking steps. So I think one way that we can grow in hope, and again, hope is a gift, and I think it's fair to say that the human virtues are kind of built upon by the theological.
Yeah.
The theological virtues can work in the midst of our human virtues.
Yeah, they do.
But right, yeah. So again, I think we just get a really real sense of that when we say you can actually help yourself grow in hope by just taking steps. Just let's get up, and prayer is absolutely the most important step. But getting up and just doing some act of charity throughout your day to show that I believe in the Christian life.
Yeah.
Making some sort of step towards becoming more Christ-like throughout your day, despite your lack of feeling like you want to do it.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a couple really important things there. I think one, you kind of identified, right? There is this element of our cooperation with grace and growing in the virtues, even in the theological virtues, because sanctifying grace, sacramental grace, right? It's, it is something we have to emphasize. It's a gift, right? There is no faith, hope, and love without the grace of God, without that gift. But it's also what we call a habitual grace, which means that it bears fruit to the extent that it's cooperated with, to the extent that habits are formed in it, right? So even though hope, and I think you said this at the beginning, right? It is similar to the human virtues in that there can be two extremes on either end, and also that they can be grown in through habit. And I love the example you gave of what do I do? Sometimes I feel like, I believe that this is true. I believe the Catholic faith is true, but sometimes I don't feel it. And in those moments where I don't feel it and I'm tempted to doubt, to despair, what can I do to remind myself of what I do believe is true?
Right.
And I think that is a great way to grow in hope. And I love as well what you said about Lord of the Rings. I think that's absolutely true. I think that's the one of the movies I've seen where I think more than any other movie, watching the Return of the King when they're on their way, they're on this journey. I thought multiple times, I knew they were going to make it. This is actually a great analogy. So I knew they were going to make it. I knew the movie ends happy, right? They're going to make it. But I felt in my bones like they weren't.
Right.
Because they were so close to dying. And the movie's so well made in that I felt deep within me, I'm like, they're not going to make it. They're going to die. Sam and Frodo are going to die, and this movie's going to end.
Right.
But alas, they made it, right? So I had this feeling, this temptation not to believe, and what I knew in my bones was true as well. But I didn't feel it. So I think that's a really beautiful analogy for hope.
Awesome. I think that's really incredible, yeah. You know what else is amazing too, Dylan? You use the word alas in normal conversation 2 times in this podcast.
Wow. That is without a doubt something I want to be known for.